Greetings, Eric Backer. Thanks for coming back. We've got lots of questions. I always get questions from people, different subscribers in particular. So we're going to go through some of those today and read out these questions, and I'm going to give you some replies. So the first question I've been asked is a high-fat diet bad for your gut? That's an interesting question. And I think this question came in response to a study that was published earlier this year in February, a Chinese study, in fact, when they took a group of about 200 people and they put them through this diet, really sort of like a low fat. I think it was like 20% of the calories came from fat. Then they had an intermediate where 30% of the calories came from fat in the diet. And then a high fat diet, so 40% of the calories came from fat in the diet. So the protein and the fiber content of the diet was exactly the same. It's just the fat increased. Now what they found was very interesting. So after a period of time, of course, what they did initially is they took stool and blood samples of all of the participants at the beginning of the trial and then at the end. And they found some very interesting things. They found that these are mainly young people, I think aged between 18 to 35. They found that the bowel flora had changed. So the people eating higher fat had a higher Bacteroides, bacteria associated with fat and meat consumption. And they had a lower amounts of fecali bacteria and also another one called Blautia. So these groups, other groups of bacteria were lower and the Bacteroides were higher. They also found stuff called long-chain fatty acids. Now these are byproducts of fermentation in the bowel. So the short ones are good, but the long-chain fatty acids can be problematic. And they found an increased amount of long-chain fatty acids in the gut flora of the people with a higher fat consumption. And of course this can lead to more inflammation, conditions like diabetes and heart disease and cancer, even bowel cancer. What they're not telling you, however, of the study is this is a Chinese study, and the predominant oil, for when I really dug deep into the study, is basically soybean oil, which is a crappy oil, and no doubt it wouldn't be non-GMO coming from China. I mean, goodness knows what kind of oil you're getting over there. So the thing is, we're not talking salmon and avocado and and nut or seed oils. I shouldn't really say that. I mean, some seed oils are good, some are not so good. But the point I'm making is there were no really monounsaturated fats here, from what I can gather. These were like soybean-based kind of fat, probably deep fried stuff. And this typically shows you how a study can really push a result in a certain particular direction. It may not be a really good direction, but how was the study conducted? On what basis was it conducted? What type of fats and oils were used? What other foods were consumed? So don't automatically assume that a high-fat diet is going to create a big problem. It depends on how much fat you're eating in relation to the protein, the carbs, and the fibers, of course, but also the type of fat that you're eating. And what else you're eating, what else you're drinking. Are you drinking like alcohol? Are you in a high-stress kind of a lifestyle? So all these factors really lead to health problems. It's not just purely the fat you eat. So I wouldn't get too alarmed by making assumptions that a high-fat diet's bad for your gut. I think it is if you're eating the wrong kind of fats. Like chicken McNuggets and deep-fried foods all the time. Deep-fried Mars bars, not really good for your health, is it? So that kind of crap. So eating healthy fats, however, salmon, avocado, for example, these omega-3 fats, monounsaturated fats like olive oil, are going to be way better for your gut than the saturated fats that we're going to find, obviously, with takeaway food. And that's what I think this study should have been around, is a takeaway diet bad for your gut, because I'd like to know exactly what kind of foods are incorporated into this diet, and I don't think they would have been healthy kind of foods. So that's my take on it. Thanks for the question.